There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call
Minecraft speedrunning.
Our story starts with a man named didnt. didnt was a Russian speedrunner who had been dropping PBs like nobody's business. The man was built different, of course, and so he got the coveted 1.16 RSG world record with a time of 1936, beating the former world record of 1941 by the Sizzler by 5 seconds. However, after a little while, a Polish speedrunner named Odiz claimed to have broken didnt's record at 37 seconds. The run was in 1859 barring retime. This run broke another minute barrier, which was big for the speedrun community but not huge, since the bar was a lot lower back then. The run seemed relatively normal as world records are, but there were some objections raised and some things seemed a little bit fishy. But before we look at this controversy, let's take a look at the individual run. Odiz spawns in a savannah with a desert village in sight, which is ideal. He gets stone tools and heads to the village where he puts gold and iron, which are items he's going to need for this run. He finds a completable ruin portal with a looting one sword, and in the nether he spots a fortress and gets 7 rounds and 6 kills due to the looting. He spots a piglin at around 8 minutes and leaves it close to 10 minutes with some very good piglin RNG. He spends nearly 5 minutes holding W and gets to the stronghold at 540. He enters the inn and clutches out an 8-bed 1 cycle. Once again, the run itself isn't too fishy. Many individual arguments have gone up against it, 2 being the looting one sword in the chest and the piglin RNG. Both of these are fairly shoddy arguments because 1.16 is about luck. A lot of it. Furthermore, a looting sword can come in level 1, 2, or 3, so why not splice a set seed run with looting 3 to get a faster run and modify your cloud? As for the piglin luck, it is consistent not with normal rates but with normal world record rates, which is what matters. There are also a few arguments in Odiz's favor. First, his skill. Odiz moves cleanly, but not to the point of looking staged. Next, his seed. On Odiz's world record seed, it's good looking but not too good looking, as everything isn't too perfect, and Odiz sometimes second guesses himself like any top runner on a good seed would. Third, there's a lot of improvement to be made. This means it's less likely that Odiz routed the seed. Plus, he has a history that, although a little odd, is satisfactory enough for me. To top it all off, Odiz only broke the record by 37 seconds, meaning he claimed to play at near equal as the level of top runners and not as a runner who just magically got good at the game. And what's more is speedrunning had taken off, but nothing like today. So, the runner had less of a motive to cheat for clout. So, I guess this Polish runner was really legit. Everything was tied up, no loose ends, and everything seemed fine. Yeah, right. Odiz's run, as I said earlier, seemed fairly legitimate on the surface, but one small problem presented itself. This was that his world record was broken by a quote-unquote speedrunner named Kiran77 with a time of 1824. Kiran's history seemed to match Odiz's fairly closely. In fact, it was speculated once that Kiran and Odiz were the same person. I would like to quickly debunk this theory by noting that there are vast differences in Kiran and Odiz's player ability. This is also evident in their thumbnail style, among other things. Anyway, Kiran broke the record with 1824 on the clock. And so, we should view this run without suspicion or bias, just see how it plays out. It could be very... What? Excuse me? If we just look at Kiran and lack of basic speedrun knowledge becomes evident. He just doesn't play like a world record contender. Anyway, Kiran spawns in a dark oak forest and sees a lava pool. After a bit of running, he finds a village and gets stone tools, kills the golem, so on and so forth. I'll take this time to know... Wait? What? Kiran begins digging dirt for blocks. This is completely nonsensical and rarely used in a Minecraft speedrun, especially considering this was over a year ago. Then, he conveniently finds a patch of gravel which is needed for point still. This seems to suggest that Kiran just might be playing on a set seed. Then, he begins searching for a lava pool, except he spawned near one that was just 100 or so blocks away, so why quote search for a lone? Well, anyway, he finds the lava pool, and he abandons the tried and true Saswile method of building the portal and instead decides to do this. I would like to point out that all three of these suspicious plays could possibly be explained. As for not going to the first lava pool, it did seem a bit strangely located for the method that Kiran uses. Also, fire caught onto tall grass, and when he left the village, this lava pool that he found was in plain view, albeit he left in a different direction than expected. As for the grabbing blocks, they could have been used for this complicated portal strap, and the complicated portal strap might have been due to Kiran liking the strap better, although I couldn't imagine why. I couldn't find this online, so I assume Kiran invented it, and it's well practiced, so credit where credit is due. These explanations still raise eyebrows, but they're fairly acceptable. He spawns in the Nether at 420. 420. And in the Nether, I don't really see much that alarms me. He sees a fortress off spawn, and goes to the Crimson Forest off spawn because that contains pigments. He gets 13 pearls out of just a few trades, goes to the fortress and gets 7 rods for 9 kills, and leaves at 9:30. After this, he holds W for about 4.5 minutes, and spends about 50 seconds finding the portal room in the stronghold. He's waiting for the perch at 1550, and he proves his lack of skill once again by doing this.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Kiran finishes off the run with a 7-bed 1 cycle, or rather tries to, and a new quote-unquote world record is set. Between raised eyebrows in both runs, Odiz and Kiran were going under a lot of scrutiny. Oh yeah, by the way, did I mention that Kiran and Odiz just happened by coincidence to be very good friends? Anyway, the mod team led by Geosquare began looking for anything that could tip them off. Out of suspicion, Geosquare finally demanded that Kiran send a screenshot of the run in the editing software. Kiran actually did send a screenshot, but it didn't prove anything. Between Kiran stalling and the mods interrogating, Kiran sent a second screenshot, but he forgot an incriminating first screenshot. He deleted it quickly, thinking he was safe. However, unbeknownst to him, Geosquare was watching the whole time. Between the suspicious behavior, they had really good evidence against him. Yet, they couldn't prove anything. But, moderator and runner Crafty Dark had been doing his homework. You see, he looked at Kiran's very small history and saw just a little inconsistency, and Kiran couldn't work his way out of this one. Essentially, if you acquire items in a world, the last item you hold will appear in your hotbar. In Kiran's video, a bucket appears, meaning in the last quote-unquote world, he had a bucket. But, the world in this video has no auto-generating thumbnail, which means he couldn't have acquired any items in it. Which means the last world he played on had to have been this world. Which means that he had to have ran this world multiple times. And that means that he had routed the seed, and it was a set seed, and most likely a splice run. Kiran was confronted, and then he confessed. The 1824 world record was fake, cheated, and spliced. This leaves us with one problem. Odiz. Was Odiz a cheater? Well, the mods had to do what they did with Kiran. They began putting pressure on him, but Odiz turned the tables on the mods, and he said that he could not find the Sony Vegas project or the world files. And, guess what? Sadly, without realizing he had done so, he had deleted them. This means that his world record could not be proven fake, but it could not be proven legitimate either. And so, as a result, it would not be a verified world record. But, was Odiz legitimate, or was he a cheater? He had known connections to a cheater. Apparently they were very good friends. So, this leaves us with the question, is he a cheater? I would say the answer lies in their behavior. Kiran's Speedrun.com account was deleted after the incident, along with his YouTube channel. Odiz, however, still uploads and treated the incident as just a minor setback. Odiz never acted like a cheater, played like a top runner, never had any suspicious history, and let the incident never get the best of him. I say to Odiz, I believe that you're legitimate, and if you are, I'm sorry you never got the credit you deserve. But, dear viewer, do we ever really know? I like the way TWT Chazes points it out.
There's plenty of reason for suspicion given Odiz's connections to known cheater Kiran, but it's also important to keep in mind that Odiz's gameplay was legitimately much better than Kiran's, and no hard proof ever came up about any of his past runs being faked the way they did with Kiran's past runs. At the end of the day, you can draw your own conclusions, but it's impossible to know for sure. If it wasn't faked, Odiz made an unfortunate mistake that led to him never being able to officially hold the world record he had earned. But if it was faked, he came about as close as we've ever seen to getting away with it. As it stands, this remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in Minecraft speedrunning history.